Hey there everyone, Power here, and welcome back. Today we are back in World of Warships. I am doing a Tier 6 Premium Russian Cruiser. This is going to be a bit of a review combined with a replay. The replay is going to go over some of the strengths of the video. It was a very good replay that I just had in ranked battles, and took this ship out, had a good match. I kind of want to show that off, but it also is going to work double standard for letting me explain the Molotov, because the Molotov, I think, is an interesting ship. It's a unique ship, and it's something that I hope World of Warships does more of in terms of, or Wargaming does more of in terms of premium ships. There's no argument, like, if you look at the premium ships, some of them have been just kind of borderline overpowered or just straight up better than their equivalents in game. Like if you look in game, the Warspite, not the Warspite, I'm sorry, the Texas is just straight up a better version of what is the ship? Tech Tree, US battleships. It's not the New Mexico, the New York. The Texas is just straight up a better version of the New York, and I don't like them doing that. Likewise, the premium Russian destroyer, it's not in here that you can see, the Gremyashki. It's arguably pound for pound at its tier the best ship at the game. At tier 5 for a destroyer, it's arguably the best ship in the game like that. The Molotov, no one is ever going to claim this is the best ship at tier 6, no matter what. Now, it does have some very good strengths. Mainly what it has is tier 9 guns. These 180 millimeters, so there's 3 batteries, triple barrels in each battery, 180 millimeter armor-piercing primary guns. I'd say this. So you look here, 4,400 AP damage for the armor-piercing, or obviously 4,400 AP damage with 2,500. Relatively low rate of fire, 13.8 seconds. An average turret rotation, 18.2, fairly good and everything. But they're kind of an odd caliber gun. If we look, say right here, I have the Aoba in port. This is the Japanese tier 6 cruiser. This guy has 203 millimeter. These 203s, these are kind of a fairly common, or the 203s and the 208s are a fairly common high caliber cruiser gun. You're going to see these starting around tier 6 all the way up to tier 10, something around 203, 208, 210 millimeter. These guns are well known for high armor piercing, great for taking out other cruisers with a relatively slow rate of fire. You can see here 12.1 seconds, which is relatively the same as the Molotov. If we come back into modules, actually, I just want to go back to the Furutaka, which is the first ship that gets, well, it's 200 millimeter. You'll see here the Furutaka by default has a 22-second reload, so a very low rate of fire. Now, the Molotov's not that big, but it is bigger than, say, if we look at the Pensacola, not the Pensacola, but the Cleveland is what I'm going to. The Cleveland, which is the American tier 6, you can see this is 152 millimeter guns, but this one reloads in 10 seconds, and in fact, if this was the upgraded version with the higher end turrets, 8 seconds. So the Cleveland, you have your Americans, your small tier guns that are high rate of fire, low damage. This is going to be your Cleveland. It's going to be your Nuremberg here, the German guys. This guy, again, 150 millimeter, reload 6.6 seconds. Very high rate of fire guns, but low alpha damage on them. These guys are great high explosive spammers. Then you have your big caliber guns, your Japanese guns, which are slow rate of fire, high armor piercing. And right in the middle is the Molotov. Very strange gun armament on this. These 180s are the exact same guns, or very close to it. So if we look again, so 13.8 second rate of fire with a maximum range of 15.5 kilometers. And then if we go to the tech tree and look at the Russian destroyers, where are they? Clicking in weird places here. Russian, not Russian, that's Germany. Russian destroyers, the DM Donosky or whatever the heck this thing is. If we look here, same 180 millimeters, 12.5 seconds, so a slightly higher rate of fire, and slightly slower turret rotation. This guy does have more turrets, but obviously this is a tier 9 cruiser compared to a tier 6. But it's the same caliber guns. I believe the damage, 4,400 for the AP is the same, 2,500 for the high explosive. So it's shooting the same rounds and all of that. Now, to balance this out, though, the Molotov has no armor. It has no armor at all. One last thing before we go, the Molotov does have torpedoes, but they are crap. They're 2 triple torpedo launchers, 1 on each side, with a 4-kilometer max range. They are fairly fast, and they do reasonable amount of damage. The damage on them is 14,000, so they do reasonable amount of damage, but that short range, that's hard. I think I've used them successfully once in protecting my ship, and I ended up dying for it anyway because the other cruiser dropped torpedoes also. The torpedoes really, they're a last ditch. Somebody's on top of me. I got to dump something. I'm going to die no matter what. Okay, let's go ahead and we will jump into the replay. And as that's going on, I'll talk more about the strengths and weaknesses of this ship. Okay, here we are. We are now underway in the match. Now, if you've not played ranked battles yet, if you haven't done any of that, let's explain a little bit of what's going on here. So it is a 7v7. Pretty much everything else is the same, but there are some differences in the play style. Caps are a lot more important. Taking and holding and defending caps is a much larger part of the gameplay. The team that tends to stick together tends to win. You see a lot more focus firing where one ship shows up in range, everyone locks onto it, focus fires it down. So you have to be very careful about being the ship furthest to the front. And the best way I've found to mostly win this game is you get a cap advantage. So in this, we want A and B. And then once you have that cap advantage, you kind of just pull back. Stay where you can completely cover B with your guns, but pull back and allow the caps to give you the point advantage. And then the other team, they either need to take the cap from you, and when they do that, they sail into the teeth of your guns, and you can just blow them away, or they got to just outright outplay you and kill your fleet. And they're going to have a much tougher time with that coming at you in a group. So that is what I recommend actually in chat, because again, if you look at the system, we have a very odd team makeup. No carriers, but more importantly, no destroyers. So we don't have any small, fast ships with low detectability that can get onto B. We do have an Aoba that is reasonably fast that could maybe get on there. The Omaha, but he's kind of a glass cannon also. And myself and this other Molotov just in front of us, we can't do it. So I mentioned this earlier when we were starting into the stats of it, and we were getting into a lot more. So while the Molotov has a lot of really good strengths, it has surprisingly good guns. You know, they have a really good alpha damage for their armor piercing, 4,400, I believe. They're high explosive while the actual damage on them is moderately low. They have a high rate of setting fire, a fairly good rate of fire, or chance of setting fire. The rate of fire on the guns is not great, but it's also not awful. The range is pretty good. Right there's the first Citadel. You can see right there, 4,400 damage. So it's Citadel'd, but it didn't do any bonus damage at all. It was just an absolute blind or alpha damage shot. The range of the guns is fairly good, 15.5 kilometers, but with the spotter aircraft up, it gets out there to almost 19 kilometers. The ship is also fairly fast. If you look right now, I'm at full speed, 36 knots. It has a fairly good rudder shift. The rudder shift time, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, is fairly fast, although the actual turning radius isn't very good. The turning radius is kind of wide, but you can get into that turn fairly quick. Now, the big weakness, though, this thing has paper armor. Like, literally paper armor is what this thing is sailing with. It is awful. I've been Citadel'd by Clevelands. Clevelands are 150, 153 millimeter guns, and on a full broadside, I've had them Citadel me really bad. This ship is one of those ones where you see a battleship broadside and you just evaporate. You just disappear. I've been wiped out by a Fuso at like 12 kilometers. He got me with 4 rounds, 4 Citadels, and I was just dead. No detonation, just 4 Citadels gone. I've been Citadel'd by battleships when I was sailing directly away from them. Just punched through my top deck, right down through, and Citadel'd me. I've had, ships of like the Aoba and the Furutaka Citadel me when I'm at a reasonably good angle, say 30, 35 degrees, so I can get my top 2 guns or front 2 guns on angle, but my rear gun not quite there. And I've been Citadel'd by cruisers. This thing has no armor whatsoever. And as such, you have to adopt a very passive is not the right term for it, a very distant gameplay. You have to really use the range that you can to your advantage, and you have to almost sacrifice your friendly ships in order to take up the damage while you stay back. back to the gameplay, what's going on, what we're watching here, I got to really give, like, this New Mexico and our Fuso. For one of the first times in a long time, our battleships are setting the front line. They are getting right in there into the teeth. That New Mexico is right on B, and that's great. That's exactly where we want him. While he's on B, really right now, the rest of the cruisers, me, that Omaha up there, we should be pushing in to get on B also in order to cap it. As I was just saying, I have no armor, so I'm a little hesitant to follow right in there into the teeth of everything. A good team, a smart team that knows a Molotov's weakness would focus down. Literally right now, even though that New Mexico's on the cap, if I'm within range of 2 or 3 ships, they should focus me down, because literally in 2 volleys, they could take my guns out of the play. With 2 good volleys to me, all of a sudden, 980mm guns are no longer in the game, and that is what they should have been doing. Luckily, this team seemed to be more focused on the New Mexico. It allowed me to get a little bit closer in here, but I eventually did decide it was worth breaking off as I watched this Omaha take a little bit of a beating, and the New Mexico there. The New Mexico, so strategy for you battleship players out there. While this New Mexico was perfectly right in getting in there into the teeth like he should have, what he should have done, though, as soon as he was on B, he should have started to turn an angle away, giving himself a chance to escape. Right now, he probably has at least 2 spare repair crews that could be used once the cooldown's up, but he's never going to get the chance to do it, because if you look at where he is, he's sailing right into the teeth of the enemy ships. By the time he turns around, he is dead. If instead, once he got on B, he had started to turn away, gone down to a 3rd power and just started a hard turn, waited between volleys of their battleship guns, he could have at least been angled to escape away to the northwest and hopefully gotten a way to repair. Instead, he's just going to go down here, and there's nothing me or their team really could have done. Ideally, we probably would have gotten in a little closer and supported him a little bit more, but no matter what, we weren't going to save him from that death right there. He was correct to commit, but he didn't leave himself with an escape. And in a battleship, they're so slow, they turn so slow, and they can be detected from so far away, and they're so easy to hit at long range. You have to plan a long time ahead your escape plans, getting in and out of these caps. The Fuso now is kind of doing a smart thing. You can see the Fuso, he's pulling hard to his left, if you look on the mini-map, and he's going to try to get up between those islands. I'm not sure he's going to turn sharp enough, but he's giving himself a bit of an escape. And I want us to support him as much as we can, but I'm unfortunately too far away, trying to watch this east flank as we have a Kirov and a Furutaka here. Here comes the Kirov around. We're going to get some good shots on him. I think this first volley, I aim way too far ahead. He was going a lot slower than I thought. Yeah, those look like... Oh, no. He just turned away. 3 rounds, okay. And really right here, I should switch to high explosive. I get a little greedy. It's a cruiser, and I have what kind of looks like a broadside, but I'm going forward so fast at like 32, 33 knots that by the time my guns are reloaded, it's gone from a broadside to where I'm shooting almost dead on his tail. I really should have changed over to high explosive, but I just keep firing. And then before I can slow down, because I was going so fast, this island mountain gets in front of me. But our team will end up finishing him off. Okay, so while the gameplay plays out a little bit here, let's just talk about the Molotov. Would I recommend it? You know, for a premium ship at the price, I really like it. I do like it. I like it because it's a different playstyle than a lot of what I play. I tend to play destroyers a lot, so having this long-range artillery platform is really interesting, though it can be really painful also. As I explained earlier, this thing has no armor, and there's times where you just get citadeled, and you feel like there's nothing you can do. You think you have the angling correct, and yeah, thank you, Nuremberg. Thank you for not looking where you're shooting. I saw him. He almost ran to me also. I was trying to avoid that. You know, there's times, especially in the normal game mode, where it's 12v12, where there's just 3 or 4 ships, and there's nowhere for you to run, there's nowhere for you to angle, and you just get rocked. It's a very painful ship to use. When you get into the right circumstances, and this is a really bad volley here, I didn't realize that Furutaka was slowing down a lot. He was basically stopped at this point. I should have cut in. By the time my guns are reloaded, he's going to be moving again. And so right here, thought process was friendly Fuso was on the cap. While everyone was shooting at him, I wanted to sneak onto the cap and try and get it. It almost works, but I'm a little too itchy. I've been citadeled in this ship and just evaporated by battleships a bit too much. And I look out there and I see a Warspite and a Fuso both within 18 kilometers. The Warspite is what, 14, and the Fuso's 17. And I'm just, my butt's puckering. I'm so worried because if they decided to shoot at me instead of that Fuso, I am dead. And I should have stayed. If you look at the cap, another 5 seconds, I would have had it. I just get too scared, and without watching the cap, I sail out of it just a few seconds too early. And that was a big mistake. This mistake almost cost us the match. If I had stayed in, we very quickly would have taken a point advantage. Having that extra 3 points every tick would have given us a huge point advantage. I screwed up big time there. And unfortunately, while our Fuso initially did a great job of not overcommitting and leaving himself with an escape, he screws up right here and does the exact opposite. But I do get my first kill on that Nuremberg. I think that was a Nuremberg with a Citadel. But there goes our Fuso. And now our team's in a bad spot. We have no battleships. They have 2 battleships and 2 cruisers. And 2 of our cruisers, if you look at it right here, the Molotov and I think the Omaha, are very low on health. No, it's the Omaha and the Königsberg are very low on health. I guess our Molotov is gone. Yeah, our Molotov died. So it's just me and the Molotov now, and enemy Molotov. And this is where the match starts to get interesting, because we don't have any right to really stay with this. 2 of our ships are 1 volley away from dead. I'm technically 1 volley away from dead because of my light armor. This gets hairy. We're going to continue on. While we get into position for everything else. So what I was saying about the Molotov, I actually would not recommend it to most people. For most World of Warship captains, if you're don't play this game a lot, don't think you're really up to snuff with your positioning and watching the minimap, you're going to get punished in this game a lot. This ship here really offers to those that take the time, are constantly looking at the minimap, looking at their angling, watching ships that are in range, out of range, watching their detection. You have to spend more time paying attention to everybody else and less time actually shooting in order to be successful in this ship. Now, if you do those things, if you're aware of your surroundings, if you're watching enemy ships, if you're watching your angling, you're watching their range, you can line up the citadels, this ship can be very rewarding. Getting 4,000 AP damage shots off in a cruiser at tier 6 is a lot of fun. And the rate of fire is just enough that it really is rewarding. You can even take on, right there's another Citadel. In fact, that was a double Citadel. That Aoba, he felt that one. Was that an Aoba or a Furutaka? I think that was an Aoba, because that is the Furutaka there. And here we go. This is some of the teamwork in team battles. We're going to go ahead and we mark that up, and that Furutaka is going to disappear relatively quickly. Unfortunately, we did just lose 2 additional ships. It is now just me and the friendly Aoba left. So far, I've not taken too much damage. And there was a good volley from the battleships. I'm trying to get myself... There's these islands ahead of me here. I'm trying to get myself in behind those islands so those 2 battleships don't have a great line of sight on me. Unfortunately, the friendly Aoba does the exact opposite. The friendly Aoba got so enamored with that kill on that Furutaka, he sails right out there into the teeth where basically everything can shoot at him. And he's not going to last very long, which is going to leave 1v3. 1 versus a nearly full health Aoba and 2 full health battleships. It's going to get ugly. Sorry, I had to drink water. This match is already 12 minutes long, and it's got a good bit more to go. Let's just say this one goes down to the last moment. The Molotov, like I said, I would not recommend it to most average players. However, if you want a ship that's really going to challenge you, if you want a ship that's going to push you to the limits of, you have to be very smart of playing it. If you want a ship that you can accept probably 40 to 50, maybe even 60% of your games, you're just going to get wrecked right from the start, because without knowing the enemy ships, all of a sudden there's going to be 3 ships in line of sight and you're going to die before you can get out of there, then the Molotov is for you. I actually like where this ship was priced. It was $32, I think. I think that's a pretty good price for a premium ship, especially for a premium tier 6 cruiser. All of those things I kind of like. I really enjoy this ship, though it can be infuriating. And now we're into it real bad. 1 versus 3 with 2 nearly full health battleships. Not only that, watch this. They start talking. At first, I think they're talking shit to me. And it gets to be a pretty funny conversation. What I eventually figured out was, in fact, somebody on their team, one of their cruiser captains, must have been complaining that the battleships were playing so far back. But they're responding to him in general chat. So I think they're talking to me when I hadn't said anything. So, game plan time. game plan time here is this. What I expect is their battleships are relatively slow. The Fuso's not too bad, but the Warspite is pretty darn slow. So what I want to do is I want to put myself at long range from B. And I want to basically, as they sail into the caps, I just want to keep hitting them and lighting them on fire, prevent them from capping, and hopefully run the clock out. Just under 5 minutes to go. I got to run the clock out. We should take with the cap lead, or we should take the cap lead somewhere here in the next 30 seconds because we have the 2 caps. The concern is the Aoba. I'm waiting to see where the Aoba goes because I expect him to push right into B. However, look at the map. I realize, and I don't realize it right now, but I will see him here in a second. Here comes the Aoba. He's coming around the outside, and this is going to get interesting. The Aoba fires a little bit faster, has higher caliber guns, better armor, though he is much lower health. I've already hit him a few times. So right away, I start ignoring the battleships. I turn myself out. I get my guns turned, and I reload armor piercing, and I'm just waiting for him to come. And this is going to be a good duel. Here he is. All right, first volley out. Hoping for a Citadels. They're a little behind. I got to lead a little bit more. 3 reasonably good hits. But here his guns come. And he's shooting. And there's the first good volley I take. And you can see he got me pretty good in that first volley. Another volley out. The one thing I do have over the Aoba, though, is I have better turret rotation. At least I think I do. That was a bad volley. Only 1. I have to drink some water here. I'm losing my voice from talking so much. All right, we're going to turn into it. And I expect him to come out the right side of that island there. Instead, he turned to the left. I don't know how he got turned around so fast. Like, that surprised me. That really did. But I get turned back around, get the guns shooting. There we go. There was a good volley. 5 hits, all armor piercing. Here comes another volley in. Now, his guns, you can notice he only managed to fire 3 rounds there because he only had... I guess he got 6 rounds off. His turrets hadn't turned yet. He hadn't managed to turn his rear turret. There's another good volley, 4 rounds in. I'm going to win, just a hint, because we do end up holding out for a little bit longer. There's another volley, but now you can see how quickly my health is diminishing from that guy. He takes off a lot more health, but there we go. Finally a Citadel on him. Knock him out. So, now the thought process. Back to high explosive. The Fuso, I can see he's about on the cap. I just got to keep him off the cap, or keep him from converting the cap for 2 minutes, 35 seconds. That's the plan. But as I explained earlier, Molotov, no armor, battleship guns. In order to put him in range puts me at a huge amount of risk. Also, he came in very smartly angled to where I don't have a good line of sight on him or a good shot on him for quite a while. He's going to be able to get in the cap for a good long time before I manage to close the distance, get within that 14 kilometers because my fighter's down, in order to shoot at him. Really, I should have saved my long-range scout plane earlier, or my spotting craft earlier for this. Luckily, he doesn't seem to be the best shot. Here we go. We're in range now. We just got to keep nicking him. Don't need to do much. Just got to keep nicking him and keep him on fire. Over lead. He's going slow. He's turning in. Let's bring it in. Yep, he's turning in hard. He wants me. He wants me. There we go. Stopped it. Reset it for a second. Bring it in. Bring it in. Bring it in. They're still talking trash to each other in chat. I might have to put a profanity warning on this. And now I'm lit up by a spouting craft. The Aoba dropped his spotting aircraft before he died. This ends up being a problem here. You'll see why in a moment. There we go, another round on target. So they're not capping yet. We have a pretty good, almost 100-point lead. Come on, come on, keep shooting. And right here, I'm trying to put the island between me and him. Not the island, but that big rock face so he can't see me. But I stay spotted because of this damn spotting craft in the air. So I end up burning my defensive fire cooldown in order to shoot it down. But in this amount of time, while I turn away and come back out, he manages to cap. So there goes the cap. I'm guessing the New Mexico ended up in the cap with him. I'm sorry, it wasn't New Mexico, it was a Warspite. Because that cap flipped pretty quick there. So they must have had 2 ships there. And now, what do we got? 39 seconds. We got to hold out. It's pretty crazy. I don't know if this is going to be a good video to watch. Playing this in a ship that I knew one good volley was going to kill me, I was on the edge of my seat like, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, 3v1, 3v1, 2v1, 2v1, battleships, I'm going to die. any good volley, I'm gonna die. Like every one of these shots coming out, I'm like, please don't sit it out, please don't sit it out, please don't sit it out. Luckily, he's not a very good shot. I'm just running at this point, like, oh, this is bad. Hindsight being 2020, looking at the scores. Now, this isn't something I would have realized when we were actually playing. Hindsight being 2020, I should have stopped firing. He wouldn't have been able to see me. 12.1, 12.7 kilometer detection range. I would have been able to get away without him seeing me. That probably would have been the best bet. In the end, though, we ended up winning. So again, Molotov, a very situational, tough to play ship with some very good guns. If you get in a bad spot, this thing you evaporate. It's like being in a destroyer with multiple ships shooting at you. You're dead and gone. But in the right situations where you can play the range to your advantage, the Aoba is a really strong ship. It is a great premium ship, though I would not recommend it for most players. Most players, you're going to find it frustrating as you're going to sail into the teeth of enemy ships. You're going to get gunned down and you're just going to be destroyed very quickly. Stick with something like the Murmansk that has a little more survivability if you're looking for a mid-tier cruiser to play. I do enjoy it, but I would say at least half my matches, if not closer to 60% of my matches, are just pure frustration in the Molotov. All right, there we go. That is the Molotov Premium Ship review. A fun, if challenging ship to play. Hope you enjoyed that video. Until next time, this has been Paler. Thanks for watching.